Story 54. I'm stupid and a terrible person who ruined my family. This is a little hard for me to write about, so please bear with me. I, 30 female, met my husband, 32 male, at a company we both previously worked at. We are both business professionals and had been married for 6 years. We have a 5-year-old son who is in daycare during our work schedule. We dated for 2 years before getting married. He is my everything. I say that, but honestly, it took me time and some serious errors that literally destroyed my life to figure it out. A bit about myself. I must admit that my high school and subsequent college years were very active regarding the dating scene. Take that for whatever you want. It was popular, and most people I hung around did it enjoying the lifestyle. I'm not trying to justify it, I'm just saying it was prevalent while I was at school. When in Rome mentality. My husband John is handsome, fit, smart, funny, and incredibly hardworking. He balanced his work schedule with our home life, and I couldn't have been happier. He was an amazing and generous lover who always put me first. Honestly, John was the full package, and I was in heaven. The problem for me started when I was headed back to see my best friend from college who lived with her boyfriend, whom she met in college, named Eric. She and Eric had graduated and decided to work in the same city as our former university. They never married but continued to share the same lifestyle we had in college. They liked to party and frequently stepped out on each other or even partied with other couples. This was something that they enjoyed, and they were living that life. When I was approaching my 30s, I started spending more time thinking about losing my youth. I know it's stupid to say that, but it's honest. This led me to make some of the worst decisions I could have ever made. It all began innocently enough. Or so I thought. The trip to visit my best friend from college felt like a much-needed break. John was supportive as always, taking care of everything at home so I could have a weekend to relax. My best friend Megan was the same fun-loving person I remembered. Her boyfriend Eric had not changed either, still charming, still reckless, and still very much living in the fast lane. The first night back, I felt like I had stepped into a time capsule. Drinks flowed freely, music boomed, and suddenly, I was transported back to the carefree version of myself from years ago. I knew this lifestyle wasn't me anymore, but something about being there made it hard to resist. Megan urged me to loosen up as we started drinking that first night. We were at a familiar bar, surrounded by college students, couples, and strangers. It was easy to feel lost in the crowd, easy to pretend none of my responsibilities existed for just one night. That's when I saw him, a guy named Ryan, a friend of Eric's from his work. He was tall, fit, and smooth-talking in a way that immediately drew me in. He was nothing like John, and maybe that was what intrigued me. I told myself it was just a conversation, just harmless fun. By the end of the night, I found myself alone with Ryan on the rooftop terrace. The alcohol had dissolved my inhibitions, and the distance from my normal life made everything feel surreal. When Ryan leaned in, I didn't stop him. One kiss turned into several, and before I knew it, we were making love together back at his place. The guilt didn't hit me right away. In the moment, it felt exhilarating. A brief escape from the routine, the obligations, the person I had become. For the first time in years, I felt desired by someone new, and it fed a part of me I didn't know existed. I stupidly convinced myself it was a one-time thing, a mistake that would stay buried in the past. As it turns out, it doesn't work that way. The next morning, I looked at my reflection in the bathroom mirror, barely able to recognize the person staring back. The reality of what I had done began to sink in. But instead of confronting it, I shoved the guilt aside and promised myself that it would never happen again. I knew that Megan and Eric wouldn't talk about what happened, so I figured I could manage the situation and just promise myself that it wouldn't happen again. Yes, I felt the guilt, but my head was full of emotions that I needed to take time to sort out. Despite my promise to forget him, Ryan stayed in my mind long after I returned home. I tried to focus on my family. For a while, everything seemed normal, but something had shifted inside me. The excitement I felt with Ryan had left me craving more, and I couldn't deny that part of me wanted to experience it again. Ryan texted me a few weeks later, and I responded without much thought. What started as casual messages soon escalated. Flirty conversations turned into explicit ones, and before I knew it, I was planning ways to see him again. Working weekends and overtime became an easy excuse. Each time I met Ryan, I told myself it was the last. But it never was. The thrill of secrecy, the rush of being desired, became addictive. I knew I was out of control, but it made me feel alive again, like when I was in college. I stupidly convinced myself that I had control and I still loved my husband and had no plans on leaving him. This was just pure physical attraction, coupled with the excitement of it being taboo. What I didn't fully count on was that John was no fool. As the months passed, he began to notice the changes. I was more distant, splitting my time between my family and Ryan. He noticed my phone was always within arm's reach. Ryan would frequently come to see me, making the drive to where I lived. There were late nights at the office, unexplained absences, and moments when I seemed emotionally checked out. One night as we lay in bed, John asked, "Is everything okay?" I replied, "Of course," brushing off his concern. "Just work stress." He didn't push, but I could see the doubt in his eyes. John was smart, and I knew it was only a matter of time before he started putting the pieces together. But I wasn't ready to stop because I was still caught up in the moment and the excitement. The day everything unraveled was a Sunday afternoon. John had gone to pick up our son from daycare, and I was at home, and had been scrolling through text messages with Ryan. We had started a FaceTime call and were talking about our next hookup. I didn't hear John come through the door until it was too late. He must have been standing there long enough to overhear our discussion. "Who's that?" His voice was calm, but there was an edge to it that made my stomach drop. His question startled me, and I fumbled with my phone to drop the call with Ryan. When I turned to face John, I knew I was caught. John's expression was a mixture of hurt and disbelief. He stood there looking at me, and I'll never forget the look of betrayal on his face. The disgust at overhearing me talking with Ryan about the last time we spent together. We had talked openly about what we wanted to do with each other the next time he was in town. John had stood there and listened to the entire conversation. For some reason I said, "I can explain," though I knew no explanation could make this right. John didn't yell or scream. He simply looked at me, his eyes filled with a sadness that broke my heart. "Okay, let's start with how long," he asked quietly. There was no reason for me to lie because I had been caught. "About 6 months," I whispered, feeling the tears flowing down my cheeks. What I had been doing and all the guilt around it hit me at that moment. He nodded as if that answer was what he expected and feared the most. John moved out the next day. There were no dramatic fights, long emotional discussions, or yelling. The part that hurt the most was that he didn't show any emotion at all other than the sad look that never left his face and the accusation that never left his eyes. He simply packed a bag, kissed our son goodbye, and left. I knew at that moment that our marriage was over. In the weeks that followed, we communicated only when necessary, mostly about our son and the details of our separation. John filed for divorce soon after. There was no attempt at reconciliation, no counseling, he made it clear. No second chances. The damage had been done, and there was no undoing it. I was served at my job. I was called down to the receptionist, and when I walked up, a young man in a suit simply verified my name and handed me an envelope stating that I had been served. He walked away without another word. I watched as the life I had built with my husband crumbled around me. The home we shared became a reminder of what I had lost. Our son, too young to understand what was happening, asked me every night when Daddy would be coming back. I had no answer for him other than to cry my eyes out every night, holding him, telling him that Daddy loved him. The divorce was finalized in what I can only describe as an agonizingly long time. John had always been fair, and our separation was no different. We agreed on joint custody of our son, and John ensured I was financially stable. But there was an emotional price to pay, one that I hadn't anticipated when I started my affair. Being alone in the aftermath of the affair was nothing like I had imagined. The thrill I had felt with Ryan was gone, replaced by a crushing sense of regret and blinding sadness. I thought I had wanted excitement, but what I really wanted, what I needed, was the love and stability that John had given me. As you can probably already guess, Ryan disappeared as quickly as he had entered my life. Once the affair was exposed, he had no interest in sticking around because he wasn't looking for love. He was looking for pure physical pleasure without attachment. I was left to pick up the pieces on my own. No, I wasn't looking to Ryan for a relationship. I was just shocked at how fast I was abandoned. It's been a year since the divorce, and I'm still trying to find my footing. John has moved on, he's dating someone new, and from what I hear through our friends that she's kind and loving. It hurts to see him with someone else, but I know he deserves happiness. As for me, I tried to take the easy way out after suffering through the consequences of my actions. I'm not proud of it, and I would urge people feeling severe depression to look for help. Don't make the mistake of thinking you can handle it because you can't. I'm working on rebuilding my life. I've learned some hard lessons about love, trust, and the consequences of my actions. I still see John every week when we exchange our son, and though our interactions are polite, there's a distance between us that I don't think will ever be bridged. The hardest part is knowing that I broke something irreplaceable. John was my everything, and I threw it away for fleeting moments of excitement. I thought I wanted freedom and excitement, but in the end, all I wanted was him. All I wanted was my family. Some mistakes can't be undone, and some love stories don't get a second chance. I'll carry that lesson with me for the rest of my life. I'm not looking for your pity. I'm trying to stop others from being as stupid as I was.
I only post new and unique content. Please like and subscribe.